We anticipate in the next 10 to 12 years, approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians. You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're going to get kicked out of being number 2. You're going to go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a third grade education would tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you all jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you can guess what you're going to get when you become number 4.
President Biden, do you support reparations?
Well, I mean, since I haven't spoken on this chance, number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single continent. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 of every 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is that not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest. Which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. This is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
We are owed $104 trillion on the very low end, plus $735 billion recurring. This number does not include the cost of about 50 Black Wall Streets that were decimated, nor compound interest from 2017 when Sean D. Rochester's book, The Black Tax, was published, nor the cost of Black life, nor the cost of living increases, nor the war on drugs, nor the current day pandemic. The number I'm working with is for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives. Good evening on the West Coast. Good evening in the mountain. Good evening in the central. Good evening on the East Coast. You know exactly who it is, family. Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the reparationist perspective, bringing you those freedmen hot topics and making the case for reparations, making the case for weaponizing our vote, socializing our suffering. I see you, Perfecto Chico T. Shields. Who else is up in here? Boy Wonder. Yes, and to those of you who have yet to check in the chat, welcome one and all to the live. It's going to be a rich broadcast as they always are. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Oh, as many of you know, I am being shadow banned because I bring that TR Ruth, I bring that SMOKE, that smoke. Oh, yes, everybody can get it from Angela Nirvana over here at TRP. I am unapologetic in this fight for freedmen reparations exclusively. I'm here to edutain you, to teach you how to weaponize your vote, socialize your suffering, okay? And to advocate for freedmen who are owed what? All together now, family, everything. Our ancestors built the U.S. economy with their lives. We are owed everything And we are leaning in over here at the Reparations Perspective. Okay? With that being said, family, we got a rich broadcast lined up for you, and I'm not going to belabor because I still have to cook my daughter's dinner. She's got a huge weekend of track lined up, so she's got to carb up. She's got to hydrate. It was 100 degrees out here in Strong Beach, California. So we have got to hydrate, okay? We just left from spring right into summer today. All right. So without further ado, let me get the presentation started. I'm going to combine it with a couple of really great videos. They're short, but they're so important, and I want them memorialized in this particular broadcast. So get your libations, get comfortable, family. I'm going in. As usual, I will do my best to get y'all in and out. No promises. I'm going to try to get this done in an hour. I'm not going to overpromise and underdeliver like I always do. So with that being said, let me stop sharing this and share something else. Okay, I've been getting lots of questions, especially from folks who really don't want us to be repaired, right? They really want to try to play down slavery out here in California. Oh, they love doing it. I'm going to make myself smaller, make this bigger. And, feel free to chat amongst yourselves the way you always do. And I'll try to get to some of your comments before I close us out. I probably won't do all your comments, but I'll do my best to get to as many as I can. So if you've got questions or comments, feel free to chat away. I'll be toggling back and forth between screens. Welcome, one and all. Facebook, Twitter, I can't see you, but welcome. Okay, so we're going to get into it because I am just kind of over folks acting as if slavery was not everywhere as it is today. I mean, nothing's different about today. It's just slavery just takes on different forms. That's how that works. It just takes on different forms. It never goes away for freedmen. But our goal is to make sure you get them reparations checks and the quadrillions directly deposited into your account so you can choose to leave or stay or whatever you want to do. You'll be free to do it because you will have that Skrilla and can do it. So I'm here to set the record straight that just because California was deemed a free state don't mean we were free. So let's get into it. I'll be reading and commenting in between as usual. I've got a couple of videos I want to share, and then I'll read some of your comments and pray us out, okay? The prayer protection. So in California, a historic first of its kind effort continued this week. Now, this article is dated, okay? It's not current, okay? This is from, September 24th in 2021, okay? That's around the time we were just getting started. But I found this article and I thought it put a nice little bow on what's been happening out here with respect to slavery. And then we'll get into some videos and we'll chat about it, okay? In California, a historic first of its kind effort continued this week that could lead to a reparations package acknowledging the extensive continued harm done to Black people due to their enslavement. The 9 members of a task force dedicated to recommending reparations and furthering California's understanding of slavery met Thursday and Friday. Me speaking, we've been at this. It feels to me like we're coming up on a year. I know I've shown up and I've done all the broadcasts. You should be able to find them archived here at the Reparations Perspective. But we meet twice a month. I think we may have taken 1 month off, but by and large, twice a month, public comments at the top of each day. And I have been in those public comments, leaning in and giving them the business. Do you understand what I'm telling you? It took 10 months to give birth to what you just bore witness to lineage-based reparations. That is from the grassroots movement all over the country, leaning in on these public comments to make sure we gave birth to lineage-based reparations, okay? So do know that we've been at this for a while and we're not scheduled to end until 2023, but I'm coming on the live Sunday with Amend the Mass Media Group to talk about Reggie Jones Sawyer, who has a bill that wherein he wants to extend the study through 2024. My question is, if you do that, how many freed people will be left in the state of California to even receive a dime of whatever comes of this study? And to me, this is what the country plans to do by and large. They plan to ethno-genocide us to as few in number as the Indian before they'll even talk reparations. They don't like that we're still around 60 million. You know, according to Congressman Marcel Dixon, I'm speaking it into existence. They've been undercounting our numbers. And because the data is not disaggregated, the last census was the first time you were able to write in what kind of black you were in this country. That's from the grassroots push to get the data disaggregated. And because so many of us are homeless, so many of us are in the private prison industrial complex, in the foster care system, in the detention centers, that we don't really have an accurate count. And Marcel believes that count is understated for freedmen black by about 20 million. And of course, we've given more than 20 million back to God due to poverty and the, choosing abortion, which are, those clinics are plentiful in our communities akin to churches and liquor stores, right? Oh yeah. They are doing to us what they did to the Indians. Anywho, back to the text. Let me say this one more thing. I'm going to do a whole entire separate broadcast on this because the new black media that's got bigger platforms than me is sitting up here trying to convince freedmen to not vote. So I'm bringing you a broadcast. I may have to switch my broadcast out on Sunday. I'm going live with ETM at 10 a.m., but I may literally have to switch out my evening commentary because it just really sticks in my craw that we've got new black media with larger platforms than mine trying to convince you to leave the fate of your lineage in the hands of white folks and immigrants. Because that's exactly what you're doing when you are being told to stay home and not participate. You need to weaponize your vote akin to the immigrants and the white folks. Okay? Both parties suck, but we'll get into that. And I'm going to dedicate an entire broadcast, like I said. If you see me switching out a show or changing the time, it's because I'm working around court, my daughter, her track, managing the household. Like, I'm wearing a million hats right now. Okay. So if you see me change the time, you got to make sure your notifications are on. Okay. I move things around based on, my capacity to come to you live. Just know that. But I have a broadcast that I'm living to bring to you. And I see a window maybe on Sunday to do that, where I'm going to share with you why you need to show up to the polls in Obama-style numbers and invoke my freedmen voter strategy. So that's coming Sunday. But this is what happens to us when we choose to stay home. If you're not at the table, family, you're on the menu. And we've been neutralized economically. The only commodity we've got left is our vote. So I'm going to share with you my freedmen voter strategy with the hopes and prayers that you will make that video go viral to encourage your comrades, your family and friends to do the same. But if we stay home, it's a wrap. We can't afford to stay home no more. We can't afford to vote third party no more. We must be very deliberate. So join me for that broadcast Sunday. Back to the text. The group formed after the passage of Assembly Bill 3121. That's the task force. I'm sorry, I get to going. And y'all just joining and don't know what I'm talking about. So the task force formed after the passage of Assembly Bill 3121 in 2020. It will continue meeting 7 more times before it delivers a report to the legislature next June. It will include recommendations for reparations to Black residents of California with special consideration for African-American descendants of slaves. Now, that was the special consideration language that CJEC and NASDLA were able to get to foster a relationship with State Secretary Dr. Shirley Weber. She wasn't the state secretary at that time. And that was her bill, AB 3121. And they were able to get that special consideration language in there, along with making sure that state repair does not usurp federal repair. So California will ultimately get paid twice, by the state and by the feds. And for these silly people running around here talking about, we don't need state repair, let's just hang in for the federal. First of all, would you prefer one check or two? Secondly, how soon do you think federal repair is going to come? They just passed the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act. How many years ago was this presented to them? And I think they've shot it down over the last 100 years about 200 times. And we're going to get into how that's a grift for midterms. Okay? Along with Katanji and $30 million crack pipes and Maya Angelou on the back of a slaveholder quarter. That's going to come to you on Sunday. I'm not going to get into that right now. But we've got CJEC and NASD LA. Listen, most of the members overlap. So CJEC is NASD LA is NASD. Okay. Let's just keep it a buck. We got those three orgs to thank for how we got lineage-based reparations, because they made sure that they tied themselves to the author of the bill. For those of you out here who want to project take over your bills in your state, you've got to find the author, you've got to know that bill back and forth, and you've got to make sure the language you want in that bill is present by partnering with the author. Back to the text. There's also currently a federal effort via H.R. 40 introduced in 89 to create a similar task force to examine federal reparations. So why are we a flat out no to H.R. 40 after gaining, 200 signatures on it? It was at 7 signatures collecting dust before the contemporary grassroots reparations movement got involved. And once we got all the signatures, we realized this is a nothing burger where it lacks distinction, no specificity. This is pretty much have been taken over by Narcan and Cobra, who won't allow us a seat at our own reparations table. I know this is a repeat for many of y'all who follow me. Just bear with me. This is for the newcomers, okay? So some things will be repetitive because we're constantly gaining new viewers and they need to be caught up to speed. So Narcan and Cobra, Pan-Africanist groups who believe all African descendants are owed our reparations, has cornered that table off and will not allow freedmen at that table. So they're colluding with Sheila Jackson Lee, who is Jamaican immigrant. I don't know if she's first gen or what, but the bottom line is they're colluding with her to make sure it's not specific to lineage. They want everybody to get it, and everybody ain't owed it. As a matter of fact, we are Black immigrants' reparations. They came over here by and large after the 65 Immigration Act, when our ancestors had already, blood and bones was already in the soil. Okay? So we are their reparations. They don't get no more. Now they can get a Black agenda, the same protections and things of this nature, but they're not owed one thin penny of what we are owed. So let's be clear. So anywho, back to H.R. 40. After we got the signatures amassed from all of us moving throughout the country, we learned that it lacked specificity, and they kept talking every hearing, that was forced on. Those hearings were forced by us. They had to meet on it because they had to use it as a grift to get the votes so that they could do what they're doing now, get in office and give our reparations away to immigrants and white folks alike. So once we realized that, we crafted edits akin to what happened with AB 3121 out here in California. They fell on deaf ears. Narc and Cobra and Sheila Jackson Lee refused to work with the very freedmen who were instrumental in making the edits to AB 3121 and getting lineage-based reparations out here. Won't return calls, won't consider our edits, pretty much wrote us back and gave us their ass to kiss. That's what happened. And so now we're about to roll out an entire campaign since getting lineage-based reparations here in California to make California the precedent and decimate HR 40 and replace it with HR and SB 1865. We'll get into that at a later time, okay? That's not this broadcast, but it's coming. And that was drafted by the grassroots reparations movement. Okay, so we have a solution with our footprint as freedmen on that dock. Okay, we got a replacement, we got a substitution. Back to the text. The task force is composed of Dr. Cheryl Grills, Dr. Amos Brown, Lisa Holder, Donald Tamaki, and Dr. Jovan Scott Lewis. State Senator Stephen Bradford, he's over Gardena. Assembly member Reginald Jones Sawyer. He's a Democrat in South Los Angeles. San Diego City Council member Monica Montgomery Stepp, and Camila Moore, who is our illustrious chair. She ascends from our ranks. Okay? She is one of us. She is from the contemporary grassroots reparations movement. And as I disclosed on my broadcast about NARC and Cobra, Dr. Cheryl Grills is on the board of NARC. Now, Chairwoman Moore stepped down from the grassroots in order to keep things fair and equitable, so there won't be any conflicts of interest. But Dr. Cheryl Grills has not. She is literally sitting on the board of one of our biggest adversaries, NARC. And she, along with Lisa Holder, Don Tamaki, and Assemblymember Reginald Jones Sawyer, voted for race-based reparations after being told by Dr. Shirley Weber, Secretary of State, that she intended the reparations exclusively for freedmen, lest we end up with 50 cents. And after Chemerinsky told them, if you do it based on race, given Prop 209 for the state of California, which has made it illegal to do anything by race, then you're going to risk a legal challenge, and this thing can be caught up in the courts akin to, this is my portion, akin to what happened to the freedmen farmers. Biden set aside $4 billion from the COVID package, and whites and immigrants, first of all, it wasn't just for freedmen black farmers, it was for immigrant farmers too. And yet whites and Latinos and Asians filed a lawsuit federally saying it was reverse discrimination to set aside $4 billion for the freedmen farmers and immigrants. You see? And so therefore, just like the real estate crises, when Barack and Obama sat up here and bailed out Wall Street and the banks, about 50% of us lost the only asset we had, the only wealth we had, which was our homes. And he didn't put audits on the bank. And he didn't put regulations on the bank. So they weren't lending that money after our tax dollars was used to bail them out. That's akin to what's happening to the freedmen farmers, right? They had this $4 billion set aside. It's caught up in court. And now the agriculture department is threatening foreclosure on those farms. So even after Chemerinsky told them, you run the risk of doing that if you tie this to race out here in California, given Prop 209, these four chose to go ahead with race-based reparations to try to kill our possibilities of being repaired here in the state. Here are some of the major issues discussed this week. Okay, hold on, family. I'm trying to jump down because I don't want to read all that. Okay, I'm jumping down, family, to a discussion of California's history of slavery, because that's really what this is about. You can read this article at another time. Just Google it, and it's at capradio.org. You can read the whole thing yourself. I just want to give you a little history of how we got here, and now I want to get into the meat and potatoes of the broadcast. Okay? Welcome to the live. Please like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. And if you feel so compelled, bless the broadcast. Thank you to all of you that do. You are appreciated. This is a discussion of California's history of slavery. Another major focus of the committee's work is to compile a history of the institution of slavery and its impacts, past and present, to be shared throughout the state. While California was a free state, that didn't mean slavery wasn't present in California. Before the state entered the Union in 1850 with its anti-slavery constitution, enslaved Black people had already been present in, brought to the state by Americans during and after the Mexican-American War, according to Oregon State University history professor Stacy Smith. The state did nothing to stop what had already taken root, and brutal violence akin to that in the South happened to slaves in California. The exact number of enslaved Black people in California is difficult to determine, she said, but given the fragmented records, I support the findings of a historian named Rudolph Lapp, who estimated that at least 500 to 600 enslaved Black people lived in California during what? The gold rush. Okay? So let me take a pause right there because I want to introduce to you my first video. Now, this is our brother, Jonathan Burgess. Hold on, let me stop sharing and share this other part with you. Okay? This is our brother who is in the movement as well, advocating for reparations for freedmen. His ancestor came to California in enslavement. His new children's book reveals the untold history. So let's play this video. It's only 1:48.
ASAP Tickets lowest airfares to Africa starting from only $507. Fly with top airlines.
The book is really about it's the first of its kind, where it's talking about, African American pioneer families during the gold rush. I happen to be one of the descendants of the family, and so really it's just to highlight, what wasn't talked about, but it really is the autobiography of our great-great-grandfather. And, him being brought to California, working with other people that were here. And what I really like about the book, too, is it highlights the diversity and the people that work together for all of humankind. And so I figure, why not put this in a book for kids to read? Hopefully it'll bring some unity to our world and then tell some truths. From what I know, my family was brought to Coloma, and that's where we originated until the family was pretty much kicked off the land and they moved down to Sacramento. I'm going to call him Grandpa Rufus because that's what I know. I don't know of Nelson Bell other than autobiography. First generation started in 1849 here, all the way until now. My grandfather went to World War I in 1917. In 1919, my grandfather came back from World War I and went up to Coloma and witnessed his brother get married in the church, which we kind of talk a little bit about in the book, where the portrait was given. So, sadly, the church didn't recognize the wedding because he married a white lady. Now, we don't talk about that in the children's book, but again, it's another conversation, when we talk about just sharing some of the truths that happened back then, which actually wasn't so long ago.
Okay, so let me stop that. Hold on. Give me a second, family. Okay. Hold on 1 second, family. All right. Just a second. I want to read just a little bit of that. I'm going to try to get him in the frame. Let's see if that works. So much other crap surrounding the page. Hold on, family. Okay, so that's there. Let me read just a little bit of this before I get back to the history, okay? Okay. All right. So Jonathan Burgess, one of my comrades here in California, fighting for reparations exclusively for freedmen. He wanted to know more about his ancestor who established their family roots in California some 170 years ago. Rufus Burgess, who came to the state as an enslaved man in the gold rush era. Over 3 years of research, the modern-day Burgess uncovered a history of entrepreneurial pioneer. His ancestor won his freedom, launched his own business in Northern California, and bought property that now is part of a state park. Burgess is sharing that history today through a new children's book that he hopes will illustrate an important piece of Black history and also contribute to California's debate about reparations. Quote, we have to begin to tell our stories, especially when we are descendants and have these oral narratives that have existed in families for years, Burgess said. Many Californians don't associate their state with enslavement. It came into the Union in 1850 as a free state, meaning one that did not permit enslavement. Yet the Burgess family shows that history is more complex, with a number of enslaved people coming to California prior to what? Statehood. Okay? So a reparations committee created by a 2020 state law is holding monthly meetings to weigh whether and how California could offer compensation to Black families whose ancestors experienced enslavement or who suffered from discriminatory policies. Burgess has been an active participant in those discussions and shared his testimony during reparation committee meetings. Quote, my family and I are descendants prepared to have that conversation, Burgess said. Now we can move forward and talk about everything else. But it's important that we see the foundation of California. Burgess, an entrepreneur himself, authored Gold Rush, Burgess Descendants. You guys should pick that book up and have it in your library. You can get it from Amazon. A children's book that unveils the story of Rufus, his great-grandfather going back 5 generations. NBC News journalist and best-selling author Curtis Bunn said the book was a worthwhile, little-known history lesson that should be widely known. Okay, I'm going to stop with that article. Okay, hold on. All right. So let's get back to the text. Hold on, I'm coming back over to make myself just a little bit bigger. Hi, family. Please like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Okay, let's go back to the story I was reading you. Okay, let's go back there. So back to the text. And California's first governor, Peter Burnett, and the legislature actively worked to pass anti-Black legislation, according to Smith. Now, this is me speaking. When I say we are exempted from being able to do anything for our race, we're talking about Prop 209. That was Ward Connerly, who was a freedman who decided to get in bed with whites and immigrants to claim that affirmative actions to benefit freed Blacks, freedmen out here in the state, was reverse discrimination. Now we had what was to me a very weak Prop 16 bill and a very weak effort to get support around the proposition to overturn Prop 209 in the last election cycle. So it failed epically. But do know that there are a lot of black, white oppressors doing the white folks and the immigrants bidding to make sure freed blacks, with a D, because we ain't hardly free, remain the bottom caste in this country. It is their goal. They're working complicitly to ensure that we are the permanent bottom caste in the country our ancestors built with their lives. They're colluding together, so everything you do based on race, based on black, okay, or for all African descendants, which is African American, although you don't hear them identify as that, only when it comes time to get that check. You see, I did in my other broadcast how CARICOM has no cash attached, right? We all learned why it's vitally important that NARC and COBRA's nefarious plan to tether all blacks to our justice claim is one that they're fighting with everything in them. They didn't expect the new and improved contemporary grassroots reparations movement. They never expected us to be awakened through social media to find each other all throughout the country to thwart their nefarious plans to undermine us so that they could stay on top of our heads. Because they're already about 1,000 times or greater more wealthy than us. I've shared with you many times that of the 3 trillion household dollars we used to share, I don't even think it's that anymore since the pandemic. But for kicks and giggles, I'll continue to use those numbers. White folks white folks and immigrants by and large share in hundreds of trillions of household dollars. Why is that? Because white folks killed us and burned down our Black Wall Streets and stole all of it as the seed that they grew the wealth of the entire U.S. economy on the backs of our ancestors' heinous chattel slavery. And now, in order to extinct us to as few in numbers as the Indians, they're giving away our reparations and protections to immigrants. And they're only importing immigrants who already got money. There's 100,000 Cameroonians who are trying to get in, but they're letting in who? The Ukrainians and the Russians. The Haitians tried to get in. They took them right on back to Haiti. They don't want no poor blacks. They don't want to take care of no poor blacks. They only want groups that hate freed blacks in this country. And I've taught you often that the color of white in this country is green. And capitalism requires a bottom caste. And this country decided, once we fought and won our emancipation, that we are it. There was Sherman Order number 15, which bequeathed us 40 acres and a mule, that Andrew Johnson took away. And ultimately, I think it was, I can't recall who, I think one of them Roosevelts, gave 100 years of the Homestead Act to white immigrants and reparations to white slaveholders. We were left to die on the vine, to die in the wilderness, because it was Lincoln's plan, after using us as the shoes to build the U.S. economy, to expatriate us back to Africa. So we have no friends. And there definitely are POC and black white oppressors. Back to the text. In 1852, they enacted a Fugitive Slave Law, with slaveholders having 1 year to arrest and deport claim runaways, and then renewed it for 3 years. That included any enslaved black person who had been living in California before it was admitted as a free state in 1850. You guys recall 12 Years a Slave. This is what they were doing out here, even to the freed blacks. Back to the text. State officials were mandated to assist in capture and arrest enslaved holders by the law were authorized to use violent means. The legislature also attempted to pass a black exclusion law 4 times in the 1850s. While that never made it through, there were several other anti-black legislation green-lighted, which made it illegal for black and white people to marry or to testify against white people in a court of law. It also denied state funding for black children to attend public schools, among other things. Quote, as with many things, California was ahead of its time, Smith said. But in this case, tragically, the state led the way in establishing anti-black racial oppression throughout the United States. So we were the leader of anti-freedmen racist sentiment and oppression all throughout the country. This is why we're all reparations here in the state of California. In 1874, California Supreme Court decision in Ward v. Flood, where justices ruled that segregation in public schools was legal as long as black and white children had equal access to similar educational facilities, is an example of some of those more progressive changes. 22 years later, the separate but equal principle became national after Plessy v. Ferguson. Okay. So with that being said, I want to share another video and take a sip of something to drink. Stay hydrated, family. Welcome to the live. Okay, let me stop sharing this and share another vid with you from the African American Museum out here. Okay, stand by. Thank you for joining the live. Please thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. That gets the algorithms up. I'm being shadow banned. I need your help. Like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Thank you. Welcome to the live.
When people learn about slavery, when they learn about the oppression that Black people have faced and continue to face, they also realize they have the power to survive it. We have survived it. The Black race has not disappeared as people predicted, and we continue to draw strength from the power of the survival of our ancestors.
California-Bound Slavery on the New Frontier, 1848 to 1865, is an exhibition that provides a historical overview of California's involvement with enslavement in the 19th century. We used 7 physical lenders who were comprised of archives and collectors. We also worked very tediously with a scholar by the name of Dr. Stacy L. Smith, whose work, Freedom Frontier, was able to undergird our research and provide more historical context for this exhibition. And all of those things helped us to populate this room and also give a new take and a new thesis on California's involvement with enslavement. Within this exhibition, we go from 1537 all the way down to 1865, but we wanted to find the direct key points that really support why California's involvement with enslavement was so significant.
California's role in slavery has gone completely not recognized. Because of the Compromise of 1850, in which California was brought into the Union as a free state, people just assumed that there was never slavery here. But indeed, there was slavery of indigenous people and slavery of people of African descent as well.
When California decided that it wanted to become a state, it petitioned to enter into the Union as a free state. At the time, the United States Congress really wanted to focus on the Missouri Compromise, which happened in 1820, to really try to keep an even balance between free states and slave states. With California entering into the Union, potentially as a free state at that moment, it definitely shifted the balance in this power struggle. So at that time, Whig Senator Henry Clay from Kentucky and Democratic Senator Stephen Douglas from Illinois got together and formed the Compromise of 1850. And within this compromise, it really consisted of 5 key points: that Texas would surrender its claim to the New Mexico territory, that Washington, D.C. would no longer dabble in the slave trade, however, slavery was still there, that the new territories could decide for themselves whether they wanted to be a free state or a slave state, that California would enter into the Union as a free state, and the 5th point was, of course, a stricter fugitive slave law that impacted the nation. Well, the Fugitive Slave Law was coming out of the Compromise of 1850, was a devastating federal legislation with regard to African Americans. The Fugitive Slave Law allowed really African Americans to be thrown back into slavery with very little evidence that they indeed were enslaved peoples. With that, those persons who were quote unquote free at the time had a very dangerous threat hanging over their heads. And we could see it in hundreds of, if not thousands, of free blacks being kidnapped and sold into slavery under the, deception that indeed they had escaped, because there was very little evidence to come to bear to prove that you were free. People therefore began to move to Canada. People began to move to the far west, California, for example, to escape the impact of the law, so that, if slavery is not so prominent a place as it was not so prominent in California, they could think of living their lives truly as free people. California Democrats came together to try to figure out, what are we going to do with this large amount of people, of enslaved Africans who came to California while it was a territory between 1848 up until statehood in September 1850. So one of the things that they decided to do was come up with their own fugitive slave law, known as the Fugitive Slave Law of 1852. This one included a sunset clause that gave enslavers 1 year to collect their enslaved Africans in California. However, we see in our research that California Democrats really extended this until 1855. This law definitely contradicts the idea of California being a freedom frontier, mainly because, again, of the Sunset Clause. When we're thinking about California being a free state during this time period, it really was just a declaration of principle. Once the 13th Amendment was really ratified, those African American citizens who were once enslaved really found power and upliftment with becoming full citizens. And the 13th Amendment only really marked the first of 3 Reconstruction amendments. The first was the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery, the 14th Amendment, which gave citizenship, and the 15th Amendment, which gave voting rights. However, it's interesting to see that though California again entered into the Union as a free state, it only ratified the 13th Amendment, ratifying the 14th Amendment in 1959 and the 15th Amendment in 1962. With California not ratifying the 14th and 15th Amendment until the 1960s, it really meant that minorities did not receive full citizenship and those types of benefits that come with that. Certainly, our history of oppression within this country has lingering psychological impact. The belief and the understanding that Black people have never been equal under the law, regardless of what the 14th Amendment says to us, no matter what the various local laws or state laws or federal or court decisions are. While the history department was researching this information and putting together this exhibition, we really wanted to have a place for reflection where people could leave messages and notes. And from us being able to look back to see what people wrote, we can see that the visitors who came to this exhibition already have learned so much, something new that they'll be able to pass on to their friends, their family, in order to really create this dialogue and this conversation about enslavement, and being able to bring it forward into the present to really see how the time periods really overlap between 1850 and 2018.
That's that video that I wanted to share with you guys. I got a couple more things I want to include to memorialize in this broadcast. Stand by. Let me stop that. Okay. Let's see here. Where am I going to go next? I like to do these videos because they're brief and some of these articles are extremely long. So I want to go to, since I already have it queued up, let me go to the Biddy Mason video that I have queued up, and then I'll work on bringing up another one, okay? Just a second. Now, let me see here. Stand by. Okay, I want to show this to you and read just a little bit, and then I'm going to introduce her video, okay? Not going to read this whole thing, it's too much. This is some of the history of free people here in the state of California to dispel this notion that we weren't a slave state. We were only free in name to this day. So Biddy Mason, let me scroll up a little bit. That's who you see pictured here. This is Biddy Mason. Okay. She was one of LA's first Black real estate moguls. She was enslaved when she was brought to LA in 1851. She died free, and she was one of the city's wealthiest women. In 1866, a Mr. Buffin sold 2 lots on the outskirts of the tiny pueblo of Los Angeles to a 48-year-old woman named Biddy Mason for $250. The land was located on rural Spring Street, roughly between 3rd and 4th, an area then just recently plotted on a map of the plains. Biddy's daughter, Ellen, recalled that there was, quote, a ditch of water on the place and a willow fence running around the plot. This was the first piece of land Mason had ever owned, a remarkable feat for a woman who had spent the first 37 years of her life enslaved. This is what we're made of, Freedmen. That's not lost in us. This was the first piece of land Mason had ever owned, a remarkable feat for a woman who had spent the first 37 years of her life enslaved. It's never too late, family, for you to turn around your circumstances. But for Mason, this purchase was just the beginning. By the time she died in 1891, she had amassed a fortune of $300,000. That would be worth around $6 million today, making her the richest colored woman, freed woman is my term, west of the Mississippi. More importantly, Mason had left a legacy of perseverance, compassion, and triumph. Okay, let's watch a little video, and then we'll get back to the text for what it doesn't cover, okay? Stand by.
In the early spring of 1848, a wagon train of Mormon settlers set out from Mississippi. They were headed west for Great Salt Lake Valley in Utah. Of the 90 men, women, and children, 34 were enslaved black people. One of them was Bridget Mason, known as Biddy. She was forced to trek nearly 1,500 miles with her enslavers, Robert and Rebecca Dorn Smith. She walked through rain, mud, floods, and ice, all the while tending to oxen, serving the Smiths, and caring for her 3 young children. We know very little about Biddy's early life, except that she was born into slavery in 1818 and taken away from her mother as a baby. It's believed that Biddy was raised by older enslaved women who were like grandmother figures to her. With them, she learned the healing properties of plants and the gift of delivering babies. As a young adult, Biddy and her daughters were sent to toil for the Smiths on their tenant farm in Mississippi. That's how Biddy Mason ended up a forced laborer on a Mormon caravan. 3 years after arriving in Utah, California beckoned the Smiths, and Biddy was forced to move again. This time, Biddy Mason was forced to hike more than 400 miles through punishing desert to what is now San Bernardino. Slavery was illegal in California, but that did not stop the Smiths from holding Biddy and her daughters captive for 4 years. At a local market where Biddy purchased goods for the Smith family, it's believed that she became friends with free black people who lived in the area. They encouraged Biddy to take her freedom. One day she learned, much to her alarm, that the Smiths were relocating to Texas and taking her and her children with them. It's believed that upon her departure, some of her free black friends alerted the sheriff's office. The sheriffs produced a court order to the Smiths and took Biddy Mason and her children into protective custody. The Smiths denied Biddy Mason and her family were enslaved, insisting they were traveling to Texas of their own free will. Their freedom was now to be decided by the courts. Biddy's case was brought before Judge Benjamin Hayes. At that time, it was against the law for a person of color to testify against a white person in court. Biddy Mason would not be allowed to tell her story. However, when Biddy's lawyer did not show up to court, Judge Hayes did something very unusual. He called Mason into his chambers. If you return to Texas, he told her, you will have to leave your children behind. They cannot be unjustly imprisoned in a slave state. Biddy's response was emphatic. I do not wish to be separated from my children and do not in such case wish to go. Judge Hayes ordered Biddy and her children set free. A free woman, Biddy moved to Los Angeles, where she used her skills as a healer to find work. She became a doctor's assistant and started a business as a midwife. Saving her earnings and buying property, Biddy Mason became one of the richest people in Los Angeles. She was celebrated for her generous philanthropy. Biddy Mason founded the African American Methodist Episcopal Church, one of the largest black congregations in Los Angeles to this day. A monument in Los Angeles honors her remarkable achievements. In speaking up for her own freedom, Biddy Mason spoke up for the humanity of all black people.
So let me stop that. So these are just some of the highlights of some of the more prominent freed people in the state of California that came through slavery and made a great deal of themselves despite the heinous laws intended to never allow them any sense of being a free people. So the next one I want to share with you is about, let's see here. Just a second, y'all. I think I want to go to Allensworth next. The history of Allensworth. Stand by, let me share. Welcome to the live. Okay, stand by. Allensworth, the first town in California established exclusively by African Americans or freedmen, was founded in 1908 by a group of men led by Colonel Allensworth. Born a slave in Louisville, Kentucky in 1842, Allensworth became the highest ranking Black officer in the U.S. Army when he retired in 1906. As a boy, Allensworth was punished for learning to read and write, which was unlawful for enslaved people in Kentucky and across the South. During the Civil War, he escaped and sought refuge behind the Union line, where he worked as a civilian nurse in the Army Hospital Corps. From 1863 to 1865, Allensworth served in the U.S. Navy and afterwards became an ordained Baptist minister. In 1871, Allensworth met Josephine Levell, a school teacher, organist, and pianist. They were married on September 20th, 1877. Josephine Allensworth worked diligently with her husband to promote his educational and religious works. The couple had two daughters, Nellie and Eva. In 1882, Allensworth discovered that of the 4 Black Army regiments, the Buffalo Soldiers, there were no Black chaplains. He immediately sought that appointment. On April 1st, 1886, President Grover Cleveland appointed Reverend Allensworth as chaplain of the 24th Infantry at the rank of captain, with the responsibility for the spiritual health and educational well-being of Black soldiers in the regiment. At the time of his appointment, he was only the second African American, after Henry Plummer, named to serve as a U.S. Army chaplain. Allensworth retired as a lieutenant colonel on April 7, 1906, having achieved the highest rank of an African American in the U.S. Armed Forces. Now I'm going to share with you a short video momentarily. After his retirement, Allensworth traveled widely throughout the U.S., lecturing on the need for self-help programs which would enable African Americans to become more self-sufficient. In 1904, the Allensworth family decided to settle in Los Angeles. One of Allensworth's goals was to identify a town site in the state of California where African Americans might start a new life together outside the restrictions of the Jim Crow South. Let me share my screen, a short video. Well, why is it black? Hold on, family.
We'd like to take you on a trip back in time when California was the promised land and a former slave settled a town where his dream of freedom would become a reality. Well, that place still exists today. It's the town of Allensworth between Fresno and Bakersfield. It's now a state historic park. KPIX5's Kristen Ayers takes us on a tour.
If you didn't know it was here, you might never find it. This is Allensworth. A blink and you'll miss it. Former agricultural town, smack in the middle of California. 4 hours from San Francisco, 3 hours from Los Angeles. Suspended in time, just the way it looked 100 years ago.
Welcome to the Heinzmann General Store. This is the business operation of Zebedee Heinzmann and his wife, Sarah.
Today, Allensworth has been preserved as a California State Historic Park. But it's not just any park.
This is the only California state park that deals with Black history.
And in its heyday, Allensworth was not just any town.
This was the only endeavor, especially in California, that was fully financed, governed, built, designed, and founded by African Americans solely. There was nobody else involved in that outside the Black community.
Stephen Tomey knows Allensworth better than most anyone. He's the resident park interpreter, an archaeologist by trade who has spent years studying Allensworth and the man it's named for, Colonel Allen Allensworth.
He was born in 1842, born a slave, got his freedom during the American Civil War, served in the United States Navy, was a restaurateur, then got the call to go into the ministry, became a ordained Baptist minister, got a doctorate in theology from the same seminary as Booker T. Washington, and then got an appointment as the chaplain of the 24th Infantry Regiment, one of 4 all-Black regiments in 1884, where he served until 1906. And upon his retirement, he was the highest-ranking African-American officer in the United States Army. He was also only the second man in history at the time to achieve the rank of lieutenant colonel as a chaplain. Come on in. Well, this is the home of Colonel Allen Allensworth and his wife, Josephine.
But Colonel Allensworth wasn't finished making history. In the early 20th century, he decided his next venture would be wildly ambitious.
And what was his goal coming here? He obviously had a vision for this area.
Even though they were 50 years out of slavery, they were physically free, but they were not economically free. So his idea was to found a community where they could live apart and prove that they were worthy of everything that America had to offer by being business owners and entrepreneurs and gentlemen farmers, if you would.
It was a time in history when racism dictated where African Americans could live and where they could not. Jim Crow laws in the South, aggressive redlining throughout the country, including California.
They had doctrines and covenants on pieces of property where they would agree not to sell to someone of color.
Allensworth was supposed to solve that problem.
And that was sort of the goal, for it to be a utopia Black community.
Correct.
From where we are right now, which is the town library, what can we see from here? What all are we looking at as far as the town?
Well, across from us, we can see that the First Baptist Church. Off in the far distance off to the right, the brown building is the Phillips home. The light green building is the Colonel's home.
There was a schoolhouse, a hotel, a general store.
So overall, though, this is a small town, and this was kind of a quiet country life.
Yeah, and it has its wonderful life kind of syndrome, where it is a small town, but everybody knows everybody else's business. You can't hide any secrets. But everyone looked out for each other too, to a point. They never had any serious crime in Allensworth during the historic period. They had a town constable. He only ever investigated one robbery, and the guy who got caught gave everything back. Well, come on in. This is the home of Alice and James Hackett.
At its peak, it was a town of 250 people, families like the Hacketts. They took a chance and moved here from Alameda. There were some conveniences in Allensworth. The Santa Fe Pacific Railroad line cut right through town. Colonel Allensworth hoped residents could live off the land, growing crops thanks to the Tulare Lake bed. But that was a crucial miscalculation. About a decade after the town was established, the water would dry up.
The drought that happens in 1913, 1914, the railheads moved from Allensworth to Alpa right around that same time, 1913, 1914. The colonel's killed in 1914.
Killed when he was hit by a motorcyclist. His death ended one of the colonel's greatest dreams for Allensworth.
They lose their bid to build a Black college here. They're going to build the Tuskegee to the west, this Black Polytechnical College. That gets killed in the California legislature after the death of the colonel because he was the guy with the political connections. Had they built the college here, Allensworth probably would have survived into the 20th century as a more thriving community.
Allensworth's dream lasted several years. In 1915, the town was thriving. But as the 1920s approached, Allensworth declined. World War II dealt a final crushing blow to the town. After the war, its educated young people migrated to places like Richmond, California, abandoning farm work in Allensworth for factory jobs in the big city.
Here we have some photographs of the Colonel's daughters.
It wasn't until the 1970s that it opened as a state park. It was restored back to its original glory. It's now in the National Registry of Historic Places. Families like the ones we met on our tour travel from far and wide to see Allensworth.
It was very interesting. I learned a lot, I never heard of this place, really.
Betty Lee told us the town holds an important place in history.
You can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. And history is very, very important for all of us, and especially Black history.
And it's a testament to true grit.
They had to be very strong people, because to be out here in the middle of nowhere, not really knowing what your future held for you, and wanting to keep going anyway, it took a whole lot of drive, determination, and just the will to say, you know what, we can make a difference in this world.
As short-lived as its lifespan was, Allensworth made its mark and left a legacy.
It's still standing 100 years. Can you imagine something standing 100 years?
That was Kristen Ayers reporting. Colonel Allensworth State Historic Park is open daily. You can even camp there. For more information, visit parks.ca.gov.
Oh my goodness, it was muted, y'all. I'm so sorry for the huge gap. I didn't realize I was still on mute. Sometimes if I don't mute, there's feedback. Forgive me for that. I was sharing that I want to share one last story with you about the Bruce family, who finally, after 100 years, got their property back. It was taken by eminent domain. Let me share my screen. Stand by. Sorry about that, guys. I was just on a roll. I guess y'all weren't supposed to hear that part. Just a second.
All right, now.
Okay, this is another 7-minute video that I want to share with you guys. I want that to be in the frame, not while I talk a little bit about the Bruces. Aren't they beautiful? Okay, this is like a 7-minute video, but I want to read a little bit to you. Let me make sure you can see. Very good. You can hear. I unmute myself. Lord, today. Hold on, family. Let me close some of these screens before I get confused. Okay, California returns beach property wrongly taken from Black family via eminent domain. The government confiscated Bruce's beach at racist behest, okay? So many of you know this story, but like I said, I want to memorialize these extraordinary freed people and their challenges in the state of California to help you understand why we, as well as the rest of the country, are owed reparations everywhere, okay? And the goal is for us as the contemporary grassroots reparation movement is to take over these bills, because there's a lot of nefariousness going on with these bills right now, where these states are trying to really, one mayor is sitting up here, she might as well be on a street corner with a tin cup. She's making reparations voluntary, where you can donate, I guess, a portion of your bill back to pay reparations with no real plan. That's a whole nother broadcast. I'm not going to get into that right now. The hour is late. I'm over an hour as we speak. But I wanted to memorialize these three heroic freed families that pulled themselves up by their bootless straps. And I'm really prayerful that this broadcast will richly bless you to help you understand what you're made of as freed people whose ancestors built the U.S. economy. I need you to understand that if they can do it with nothing, we can wash, rinse, repeat, and do it from nothing until those reparations checks flood our accounts. And I'm also prayerful that it will enlighten you as to the importance of you and your family getting involved in this reparations movement. We need to build a critical mass to get this done right, so that we can push NARC and COBRA and all the nefarious Congressional Black Caucus who are trying to undermine us and make sure we remain the anchor of this country's capitalism. We can push them away from the table and take the table over, akin to what we did out here. But we need y'all's help. So back to the text. So California Governor Gavin Newsom signed a law last week, this is dated, that will return beachfront property to the heirs of an African-American couple who had owned it in the early 1900s. While the move is rightly being hailed as a step forward in undoing a racial injustice, it should also be recognized as undoing a stark example of eminent domain abuse. Charles and Willa Bruce, whom you see featured on the screen, we'll get into like a 7.5-minute video momentarily, moved to California from New Mexico in the early 1900s at a time when many African Americans were moving west. Starting in 1912, they bought up several plots of beachfront land in Manhattan Beach, with a median home price, I would say the homes start at $2 million. Back to the text. On this property, Mrs. Bruce built a resort, which she named Bruce Beachfront. This was later shortened to Bruce's Beach. The property featured a cafe, a dance hall, rooms for rent, bathing showers, and dressing tents. Many white residents bristled at the Black-owned and patronized business. The Los Angeles Daily Times reported that nearby white landowners deplored the state of affairs. They responded first by putting up no trespassing signs all along the edges of the property, forcing patrons to walk an extra half mile just to get to the resort. Over time, racists started making profane phone calls and letting the air out of beachgoers' tires. The KKK started holding rallies on the beach, burning crosses on hills overlooking the resort, and in one case, burning a mattress on the property. Yet the resort thrived for more than a decade, with Mrs. Bruce buying up nearby plots of land to expand the business. During the same period, many Black families moved to the area, buying and building houses nearby. Finding direct violence and intimidation ineffective, the racist landowners tried a different tool: the local government. Me speaking. This is why I constantly tell you that we've been legislated to the bottom of this Titanic as the anchors of the country's capitalism by every branch of government. They were complicit and they owe in the quadrillions. The number Dr. Darity is recommending for federal repair is a down payment to me, $14 trillion. I want the real number. And I want us to get monthly payments directly deposited to our accounts for at least the 500 years it took to drive us into slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives. And no one is entitled to that but freedmen, Black. You understand what I'm telling you? Back to the text. A real estate developer petitioned the Manhattan Beach City Council, which voted unanimously to condemn and seize the Bruce's property under eminent domain, ostensibly for the purpose of building a public park. Protests were ignored, lawsuits were dismissed, and ultimately the Bruces had no choice but to acquiesce to the order. In compensation, they asked for a total of $120,000 for the property and for damages incurred. The city ultimately gave them just $14,500. The land then sat undeveloped for more than 3 decades before the city built the park, which now includes Los Angeles County's lifeguard training facility. Modern estimates put the value of the requisition land around $20 million. As the land is restored to private ownership, the story should serve as a stark reminder that more often than not, and no matter who is in charge, eminent domain is a power easily abused. The takings clause of the Fifth Amendment allows for private property to be taken for public use as long as, quote unquote, just compensation is provided in return. But in practice, the terms public use and just compensation have both proven remarkably elastic. These are the last 2 paragraphs. In 2005, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Kelo v. New London that virtually any potential benefit to the public qualified as public use. That decision allowed the city to bulldoze several families' homes to make way for the expansion of a Pfizer pharmaceutical plant. Pfizer eventually pulled out of the plan and the development was never built. The site remains empty today. Neither Kelo nor what happened to the Bruce's family are outliers. California deserves credit for finally attempting to make amends to the Bruces. But if state officials want to stop such injustices from happening again, they should move to roll back their own powers of eminent domain. Let's share the vid.
All right, now to Southern California. A Black family is speaking out as they get ready to reclaim oceanfront property taken from their ancestors nearly a century ago. 60 Minutes Plus correspondent Wesley Lowery reports.
Anthony's great-great-grandparents once owned a popular resort along this beachfront.
They probably would have had the resort right there.
When we brought him here last month, it was just the second time he'd ever visited in person.
What did you think this morning when you walked out here and saw this beach and saw that property?
I thought to myself, this is a magnificent place. And to think that it once was definitely my ancestors' property, you know, it kind of was like an emotional moment for me.
What were the emotions you were feeling?
You know, remembering what my family has gone through. So for me, it's kind of like nostalgic. There's like an internal feeling, you know, I don't know how to describe it.
Of course, an ownership and a pride.
Yeah.
It was along this sandy stretch that two 33 by 100 square foot plots were once owned by Willa and Charles Bruce, entrepreneurs who arrived here from New Mexico in the early 1900s, among a wave of Black Americans who'd migrated to California from across the country. Charles worked as a dining car chef on the train between LA and Salt Lake City, while Willa owned and managed their resort, known as Bruce's Beach, which was among the first oceanfront properties here that was owned by and servicing Black residents.
It was a pop-up tent affair when they first opened.
Dr. Allison Rose Jefferson is a historian who has spent years researching the history of Black Americans in California beach towns like this one.
This was an opportunity for a leisure business to provide services to African Americans who wanted to come to the beach. They would be less harassed in this area because there was this African American business that could provide them with, you know, something to drink, a place to change their clothes.
So this was really, in a lot of ways, a linchpin of a growing Black community in this area.
Yes, if they hadn't been down there, I don't know that other people would have bought property down there.
So joining us now to talk a little bit more about the 60 Minutes Plus piece is correspondent Wes Lowery. Wes, thank you so much for joining us. I think this story is so incredibly fascinating. And I know there's a focus now on this section. It's a nice, you know, sexy parcel of land close to the beach, but this is a conversation that's actually been happening across the country. African-American farmers who have seen their land over generations be whittled away, the issue of heirs' rights to property in many southern states. And often, you know, what we have seen are Black families either lose their land through illegal measures or quite legal but unethical measures. So I'm wondering about how, you know, the broader implications of this lawsuit and if they get their land back, you know, what it will mean, not just for them, but across the country.
Of course, you know, as you noted, this is part of kind of a growing movement and conversation across the country, first and foremost, about our own history and about trying to kind of honestly grapple with things that have happened in our past, people who have been harmed, things that have been taken, but secondarily, a question about how do you make people whole, whether that is via payments, whether that's via returning things that have been taken, how do you acknowledge history that isn't the most fun or doesn't make us look the best, but that is important to understand. And so all of these elements are playing out in Bruce's Beach. And I'll be honest, one of the things that was interesting in this case was not just the steps forward, but also some of the resistance to these efforts. I think that sometimes we like to think, well, we've made so much progress and everyone's on the same page and X, Y, and Z. But in this case, it was very interesting to watch and to look at some of the resistance from local residents to the idea of giving the land back. And you start to see how some of this stuff might have happened in the first place.
Yeah, that's a very fascinating question about how do you make people whole? Because what we're talking about now is the possibility of intergenerational wealth that's cut off at the knees. We have no idea where these descendants might be if they had, you know, had access to the money that was generated either by the land or by the resort. Maybe they would have been the ones creating Bitcoins and investing, or, you know, sort of Silicon Valley titans, because they would have been able to go to great schools or or any of that stuff. And not saying that they may be now as well too. There are a lot of descendants, but you sat down with a historian to talk about the significance of the resort property that was there. What did it mean to the community at the time?
So the point you raised, I think, is important. The state senator we talked to in the piece said, the Bruces could have been the Hiltons or the Kennedys or the Hearst, right? We have no idea what would have happened if they hadn't been cut off that way. Now, Willa and Charles Bruce were entrepreneurs. They moved to Manhattan Beach in Southern California in 1912 and started Bruce's Beach, which was a resort. It was one of the only oceanfront properties that was owned by and servicing Black Americans at the time. This was a place where Black people could come and surf, swim, cook out. They could use the bathhouses to wash the sand off of them, which at the time was not something they could do at any of the white-owned bathhouses. And so this really was an important spot, an important place. In some ways, it might feel almost frivolous to think about a fight over the beach, but you have to remember that the debate or the discussion around Black personhood and citizenry, right? The idea that Black Americans should be able to enjoy the full American experience, which means getting to learn to surf, which means getting to enjoy the beach in Southern California when it's beautiful. And so this was something that was really important. But despite their success, their business was making a lot of money. It was extremely popular. The town at the time, the city at the time, still in its early development, was very uncomfortable that there were people, prominent business owners, who wanted to keep Manhattan Beach white only, did not like the fact that this business was attracting Black people to the area. And so they came under attack by racist harassment. A mattress was burned under their house. There were people who were they're hiring constables to keep their beachgoers from being able to access the beach. And then ultimately the city seized their land and the land of a few other Black families in the area via eminent domain, saying they were going to build a park. And essentially, at the time, this was because they wanted to keep Manhattan Beach an all-white city.
Just really, really quickly, Wes, what do the Descendants plan to do with the land?
So right now they're still having a conversation about it, but there's a chance they may lease the land back to the county, that there might not even be a big change on what's happening on the property, but rather now they'd be able to be paid for the way the county is using the land.
I love it. Well, I got to tell you, every time I see the picture of the original owners, the Bruces there, I keep thinking, what a classy looking couple. Makes me feel good just to look at the picture. Wes, thank you. Thank you so much, Wes.
So you can see how we were made bottom caste. This is what happened. Not just in the South, but here in the beautiful state of California as well. I've got one more short video I want to share to kind of round out the Burgess story. So stand by, let me share my screen, and then I'll get to a few of your comments before I pray us out. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications.
An effort to restore a generational legacy. Tonight, a local family is asking for restitution after discovering their ancestors' once owned property that is now in possession of the state.
CBS 13's Lena Jones with the efforts to take back what's theirs and reclaim their land.
Nestled on the American River, the tiny town of Coloma is known for its gold rush history. But there's a piece of the story one family says is missing.
I think about how land's been lost. I think about secrets that have never been revealed.
Jonathan Burgess has spent years researching the area. He claims his great-grandfather, Rufus Burgess, buried in Pioneer Cemetery, owned 80 acres of land, including Emmanuel Church, still standing today.
This, in fact, is a building that once we owned. And as far as I'm concerned, we still own because we have the deed to it.
The chained-up chapel, the first African-American church in the region, now sits in the Marshall Gold Discovery State Historic Park.
And once we tell the truth, we can restore what once was.
A deed from 1879 shows the land was bought by Burgess's family. California's Parks Department tells CBS 13 their records show the family owned the lot next to the church instead, adding more research is needed to understand the, quote, historical sequence of property ownership.
We have nothing to show of it today except for a fraudulent map on file that says we only owned 8 acres.
And this is the time for folks to make amends.
Kevon Ward is the co-founder of Where's My Land, an organization that advocates on behalf of Black families to reclaim lost land.
We will not go away. We will not shut up. We will not stop demanding reparations.
Last year, Ward successfully helped return ownership of Bruce's Beach in Los Angeles. Her efforts prompted a state law making it possible. Ward hopes she can do the same for Burgess's family.
I would like to see statewide policy that allows for all Black people who have had their land stolen to have it returned and or restitution.
A family's missing legacy.
There's so much that would be different.
Burgess hopes will soon be restored.
Just as much as it is about reclaiming, it's as much about telling the truthful history.
Burgess says after 3 years of talks with the state's park department, no progress has been made. He's now hoping the governor's office will investigate.
And there you have it, family. There I go talking again with my thing on mute. I'm going to have to remember to unmute. Yes, I'm just so ecstatic to have brought this broadcast to you, family. I know I'm over my hour, but it was so rich and so worth it. Please like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. Let me see if there's anything pertinent that's been asked or has been stated in the chat before I pray us out. Welcome to the live. Boy Wonder, Perfecto, Chico, T Shields. We need 100 million per person, Angela. That would work for me, T Shields. Yes. Catalin says, I'm sick of TN pushing and advocating his people to not vote. Caitlin, listen, this is one of the persons in the new Black media that's really upsetting me right now because they don't do politics, you see. And they get on here and they've got the largest platforms and are really setting our people up to have our fate determined by white folks and immigrants. And so I'm really going to need y'all on that live on Sunday evening. Oh, excuse me, family. I've been drinking some lime-infused water, and it made me have a little burp. Make sure you stay hydrated. Yes, I'm going to switch some of my topics around because I saw that, and he had around 60,000 something views, and I'm saying this is why I do what I do over here, to teach politics and the importance of a strategy with the vote. So I cannot stand these bigger platforms, it's not just him, trying to convince our people to stay home is committing political suicide on the freedmen lineage. And this is the problem, because I know what they're trying to combat, folks turning out to the polls to vote blue, no matter damn who. But everyone has a strategy, and we need one as well. We don't need to be staying home. If we do, we're done. We must weaponize the only commodity we've got left for now. We are out of time. And I've been impressing upon you guys a Freedmen voter strategy where you vote for closed border candidates, including Marcel Dixon to replace Jim Clyburn in District 6, South Carolina, and Tamara Johnson Shealy to replace Warnock in Georgia, because these are two full-chested reparationists who aren't just paying lip service, they are running it at the top, not the middle, not the bottom, not immigrants before freedmen.
It's at the top of their platforms. That is it, and that is all. And if you stay home or throw away your vote on third party or vote blue no matter damn who, you are literally giving the immigrants free reign in this country to replace you. You must turn up to vote in Obama-style numbers and invoke the Freedmen voter strategy. It's not a party thing. Both parties suck. It is a Freedmen flourishing thing. We must show up in Obama-style numbers to neutralize our most imminent threat, immigration. And if you don't, or if you show up and keep voting this blue crap, we are finished. We are out of time. So thank you, Caitlin. I am a new follower from Cali. I will be emailing you about grassroots organizations in my area. Thank you, Lucky Anonymous. Please Gmail me at the rep perspect@gmail.com. I put it in the chat. I thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. And please share with everyone you know, fam, because the stakes are truly high. And I'm happy to receive an email about other grassroots, you know, whether they're here in the state of California or abroad, so that I can link us to each other so we can get this work done. T. Shields agrees with Caitlin. Caitlin M., I agree with TN. Oh, no, you agree with TN? T. Shields? Then know that you are giving license to the immigrants and the white folks to determine the fate of freedmen. If you agree with TN and you believe you should not vote because you're looking for tangibles that aren't coming, oh, by the way, they're not coming until you weaponize the vote, because they are flooding this government at every branch with immigrants and white folks who are an emphatic no to reparations. We must show up and give the Democrats our asses to kiss, akin to how they've done us. And if you stay home, you are literally telling your lineage that it is fine that immigrants take this country over. Because you will not see a dime of reparations until you weaponize your vote and socialize your suffering. So you can agree with TN, but know that you in agreement with TN is going to have us cemented permanently to the bottom of this Titanic as the anchor of this country's capitalism. I'm going to get more into it on Sunday's broadcast. I'm hoping that you'll come back and listen to what TRP has to report about it. It's going to be a rich broadcast, probably around 7, because I got to go live with ETM at 10. But I want you to hear me out before you making a decision about agreeing with TN telling y'all to not vote. Just give me a chance. Give me a shot. What's up, Freeman descendants of U.S. chattel slaves? I see you, fam. We must demand U.S. freedmen, African-American vernacular receive official language status. Yes, we are actually in the process of that. We've got a bill on the floor to disaggregate the data to refer to ourselves as Black American descendants of U.S. chattel slavery. And there are bills cropping up all over the country. You need to research it, find the people that are the author of it, and take it over. What? Lord, let me silence this. I don't know who that is. Okay. I see you, GK. Good evening, family. Welcome to the live. Caitlin says, while we still have high numbers of our own people against other groups, we need to be voting for closed border candidates, given our number one threat is immigration. Caitlin, thank you for hearing me loud and clear. This ain't a party thing. I don't give a damn about whatever else they got going on. If they agree with Americans only or Americans first or closed borders, that's who you vote for, period, the goddamn end. If you notice, when these Democrats are in office, freedmen are the only ones in distress. Trump was not doing all the nefarious things the Biden administration has done to undermine free people. He's given us $30 million crack pipes and Maya Angelou on the back of a slave owner quarter while giving trillions to all the other groups to replace us. He is literally buying the vote from immigrants and white folks with our reparations. More on Sunday. I don't want to give away the whole program. I'll be here another 2 hours. Our children are being inundated by foreign languages. Yes, freedmen, descendants of U.S. chattel slaves. You can't even get a job interview in the state of California without knowing Spanish. And y'all sitting up here, not y'all, T-Shields, you agreeing with TN. You looking for tangibles in exchange for your vote when the Republicans repugnant clans don't owe you nothing because we're not their loyal voter base. And the Democrats will give you Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act and $350 billion to fund more race soldiers in our communities to execute us with impunity. So if you stay home, you're telling the Democrats you agree with them replacing you and your children and your entire lineage. Immigration equals colonization. Gentrification equals U.S. freedmen ethnic displacement. Salutations, Angela. Politicians oppose U.S. freedmen-specific legislation and endorse anti-Asian hate bills. Come through, freedmen. U.S. freedmen receive less than 1.7% of government contracts. Come through. The American Rescue Plan allocated more money to Asians and Hispanics than U.S. freedmen. And they want to stay home. I say we flip the script and make the immigrants the permanent bottom class. Well, baby boo, you won't be doing that sitting at home, allowing them to overrun the polls because they're comfortable getting our bag and protections. That's not how any of that's going to work if you and the TN crew stay home. What's up, Summer Rain? I see you, fam. You something else, T-Shield. Don't you be telling him to stop hogging the chat screen. There's enough space out here for you to write. Stop it. Yes, Summer Rain, reparations for freedmen only. CBC Representative Dwight Evans' office asked if I'd rather nothing in response to HBCU underfunding. Ain't that about a blip? Biden cuts HBCU funding to give 5 times as much to Hispanics and Asians. And this fool, Dwight Evans, asks you if you'd rather have 0 versus the 2 million they gave us as compared to the 11 million they gave Hispanics, and I want to say 7 million to the Asians. Oh, we going to get into it Sunday. Disband CBC, which is for immigrants only. You better know it. Congressional Black Caucus don't represent nothing black. And it don't represent nothing freedmen even more. Okay? They are grifting off of most of our issues to get you sheepwalked into the polls. That's why Biden signed the Emmett Till Anti-Lynch Act, which doesn't even have the same specific language as the Anti-Asian Hate Bill. Oh, we gonna get into it Sunday. You don't want to miss that broadcast. Freeman said, T-Shields, you do realize that we can all post messages simultaneously, correct? Absolutely. Keep speaking, my friend. Yes. We can't afford to give in, up, or out. Our entire lineage depends on me dropping knowledge as I get it from my inner Christ, okay? Thank you, baby. I'm going to keep speaking. I'm going to keep preaching. Rap fan, I see you, fam. I'm jumping down to the most pertinent. It's imperative that we create autonomous U.S. freedmen land reservations. Come through, freedmen. Our taxes pay for Native American reservations. We need U.S. freedmen reservations. Come on now. Summer Rain says, we are citizens who has paid taxes and built the entire USA. Immigration now is reconstruction again, posed on top of us again. You better come through with the TR roof, Summer Rain. I told y'all Lincoln intended to expatriate us after we fought and won the Civil War and our emancipation. And when we did not go, after Sherman Order 14 gave us 40 acres and a mule, Johnson took it away, and white immigrants and white slaveholders got reparations and 100 years of the Homestead Act. Ain't nothing new under the sun. These plans are just being finalized. The plans to replace freed Black in this country of our ancestors, you are looking at the final stages of it. You are looking at our Holocaust turned Armageddon right before your very eyes. You best not stay your ass at home. I do not recall ever learning about our history in California. Baby boo, they are whitewashing our history all over the country by design. And that's why I brought you this broadcast, because I'm tired of folks asking me, why are y'all owed reparations when you were a free state? That's why TRP had to come and bring you that TR roof like I always do. We are the highest rates of unemployed out here, underemployed, homeless, can't afford housing with a median income of around $35,000, the median home price around $834,400. We don't hardly own any businesses out here. This is our plight all over the country. I see you, Kia J, my love. Welcome to the live. Another sister in the contemporary grassroots reparations movement. Thank you for your kind words, Summer Rain. Forgive the mishaps. I'm a one-woman operation over here, y'all. I got to produce it and direct it and host it. And one of these days, y'all, I'm going to be as big as TN and Jason Black and, yeah, a few others that I love to watch, except that bullshiggity when they directing y'all to stay at home. If y'all don't get y'all's asses to the poll, it is a wrap for freedmen. Immigrants and white folks will determine your fate, and it will not be good. Grandma Mason, strong Black women, real estate mogul, Black empowerment. Yes, family. And if they can do it, we can do it. Never will be lost in us. Never too late to empower each other. Yes, ma'am. Summer Rain. Facts, U.S. freed women. She was a badass. Her spirit lives within each and every one of us. Yes, family. And the ancestors won't let me sleep. They won't let me shut up. They won't make me be polite about it. We are out of time. Malcolm Misha has risen in me, okay? That's a nickname I gave myself, Malcolm Misha. Definitely Summer, her spirit is alive. Yes, sir. What's up, Quantive? I see you, family. BB Rodriguez. Salute, Reparationists, listening while working, dear. Thank you, and thank you for being here. Yes, a beautiful story of perseverance. We freedmen can overcome anything. We are naturally strong, and guess what? We've got that spirit of the living God that courses through our veins, through our bodies, through our temples, through our voices. And no matter the nefarious plans, the God within each and every one of us is bigger. So we just have to keep knowing who we are. BB shares African-American families trafficked throughout the USA from 1619 to 1915 to the current day, family. Our enslavement has just taken on new forms like the private prison industrial complex. Never forget, never forgive. I see you, Derek Askew. Welcome to the live. This is beautiful, Angela. I never knew this. Allensworth. Yes, Quantive. I see you, Ivok Info. I love the ragtime music, the creation of ADOX. Yes, family. Welcome to the live. FBA, B1, ADOX, ADOS, BANOX, Allies, everybody who bleeds U.S. chattel slavery, okay? I don't care what set you rep. You're welcome here every time, okay? This makes me very sad. Quantive, a weeping woman do it, weeping woman and man, a weeping freedman do it for a night, but joy come in the morning. We here, we finding out, and we're leading in. We will never give in. We will never give up. We will never give out. So cry, baby. That's all right. Get your tissues and then get in the fight. Gmail me at the Rep Perspective Gmail. We need all hands on deck. Got a lot of action items. We need help. You got simps and scam Africanists telling freedmen descendants rebuild again after repeated attempts to create our own on our own. The ranks must be removed now. Come on, BB, come through. Yeah, they like to come over here as descendants of slave traders and tell us to pull ourselves up by our bootless straps, which we wouldn't be 60 million strong in this country had we not pulled ourselves up by our bootless straps. And these glacier junkies come through and burn it all down and execute and lynch us in the process. And they come over here with their monies from trading us into slavery. That's the caliber of descendants from Africa that are in this country. Then they identify as African Americans to get everything we're entitled to. And the glacier donkeys participate based on their accents, based on their last names, to deny us the affirmative action that our ancestors fought and died for. And now they got the unmitigated gall to call us xenophobes for putting the gate up around the reparations after our ancestors built the U.S. economy with their lives. And we, TRP, are on their heads and exposing them at every turn. His story and facts are essential to freedmen descendant reality. Not sure if there's something wrong with my internet connection. Darling, I was on freeze. I forgot that I mute. This is what happens when you have to wear all the hats, family. Forgive me. Oh, yeah, Bruce's Beach, reparations everywhere. Amen, Angela. Yes. Remain the anchor together. Honey, we coming up off this bottom. It's time to trade places up in this piece. Where are the scam Africanists to tell us to pull up our boots and run to African African nations for relief because they ain't got no relief for you there. You will forever be a resource, especially for West Africa. If you go on to Africa, you better check out South Africa because West and Central that sold you want you back to build their shit that they ran from. Ain't that about a blip? And listen, I'm not opposed because I definitely would love a summer home in Johannesburg. I mean, a winter home in Johannesburg. I don't know if y'all watch Rich, Black, and African on Netflix, but Johannesburg, it looks lit, okay? So I wouldn't mind a little property over there, but do understand that they're running to get up in this piece, okay? They want in over here. They want to trade places with you. So I'm telling you, by and large, don't go to West and Central Africa where you were sold from because they want to use you and your money as a resource again. Okay? So don't move there. I want my reparations here. I want to be made whole where my ancestors' bones and blood are in the soil. We ain't going to build it and then go to Africa and rebuild that. You got me mixed up. That's right, darling. Reparations from the USA government now. And this is why we got to weaponize a vote. You ain't ever getting it if you keep on being sheeple. If you keep sheep walking to the polls, voting blue no matter damn who, you'll never see reparations. The only way to bring these Democrats, Dixiecrats to their knees is to vote closed border candidates only, including Marcel Dixon and Tamara Johnson-Shealy. Down payment and lifetime payments. Oh, yes. If it took you 500 years to drive us into the bottom of your Titanic, it's going to at least take 500 years to pull us out. You know, like how the Jews are continuing to get paid for their Holocaust. While we continue to endure a never-ending Holocaust and the U.S. gives money to everybody but freed Black, oh, yeah, they must pay at the polls. Scam Africanists are saying they got paid, though. Scam Africanists are suckers, elbow cough. Yeah. They got paid because they descend from slave traders. Okay? Over 200 cities and towns decimated and stolen by the POS, 1812 to 1972. I don't know what POS is. Put that in the chat, BB. Bruce family got it back. I think they're in the process. I see you, Ivy Dreams. Welcome to the live, my love. I'm breezing through here, y'all. We had 2 hours again. I just might as well say I'm going to be on here for 2 hours. Scam Africanists buy that one-way ticket to African nations, GTFO. Now we don't want your kind here. Oh, because they're showing their true colors, aren't they, BB? Yeah, they are clowning freed Black after using us. They have tethered themselves to us to climb right over top our backs with the help of our governments in every branch. So much lost revenue to white people. Reparations now. Oh, stolen revenue is more like it. That could have been our inkwell. Yes, family, Ivy Dreams says. BB says, a classy tortured couple, her son said on his ma's deathbed, she said, recover our property by all means. Wealth stolen from freedmen. Oh, yes, all over the country. While folks want to argue with me that we're not owed reparations in the state. Even Black folks, but they usually are immigrant Blacks telling us it's bullshit, especially now that they know that it's lineage based and they ain't got a quarter coming. Yes, never give in, never give up. Frederick Douglass, agitate, agitate, agitate. Yes, I call myself Malcolm Misha. Lord, oh, really shaking my head, no voting. Yeah. I mean, lots of new Black media, family. are telling our folks not to show up to the polls come midterm, to leave the fate of our people in the hands of immigrants and white folks. Oh my God. So I got to bring that broadcast on Sunday. It's going to be sheer fire in the hole. We have to close the borders. Amen. Angela, tell them no to immigration, says Summer Rain. You got that right. The legal and illegal. Yes, we must be smart with our voting strategy. Everybody got a strategy. Okay? Voting is a must. Hi, Shauna Kim. Thank you for that. Please like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. I'm being shadow banned in a major way. They're coming for me, y'all. Loud and clear to close border candidates, says Summer Rae. GK showing some appreciation. Yes, it is sickening, family. I love the fire. Thank you, Derek. Can't lay down. I love you, Black and Strong, baby. Thank you, Summer Rain. Sunday, spread the word. It's gonna be litty. I'm gonna build that show. I'm working with my working title right now to draw the people in, you know. So yeah, check it out because you'll see advertisement over at Twitter, advertisement over at TRP Nirvana. That's on Facebook. Now I'm very selective. If you come over there sending a friend request, I'm very, very selective because Facebook shut down 4,500 of my subs. So, you know, that had everything to do with my pages being public and white folks and immigrants reporting constantly. I was in Facebook jail constantly until they finally decimated 4,500 subs. So my stuff is privatized, but let me know where you saw me and I'll accept your friend request over there. That's TRP Nirvana. So then you guys can share it. I prefer you share the ScrewTube one anyway, okay? So like, share, subscribe over here. And if you share this one, then I could get my numbers up. Everything I do is about growing our movement to critical mass and getting more hands in this reparations fight. So I really like it when you share from ScrewTube because this is where it really, really counts, all right? They have everything and we have nothing but the rats and roaches. Come on. Summer says, I think the First Lady is rewriting the Department of Education and its book. Notice she has not been seen. Oh, you're talking about Jill? Jill Biden? Jill O'Biden? Angela, as you name all the groups, don't forget the Aboriginals or they will be mad. Oh, yes. I do believe out here it's not dealing with just enslaved blacks. Our reparations does include the blacks that were here before the 19th century, okay? Even the freed ones, okay? They call us divisive for looking out for ourselves as well. Ain't that about a blip, Lucky? Now that we done pushed everybody else off the tit and we got our own people, that we're invested in our own people, we're called xenophobes for being invested in our own people. I don't hear the Jamaicans being called that, the Haitians being called that, the Nigerians being called that. But the minute we put up a gate and look out for one another, now we're everything but the child of God. Because they're fully invested. Immigrants, the black ones too, and white folks, in making sure we stay permanently on the bottom and we are fighting like our ancestors are driving us to fight. They're driving us to speak. They're driving us to learn legislation, how to write bills, how to partner to get our things done, how to project take it over. And the minute we do that, we are everything but a child of God. Ain't that deep? But thank God we're finally seeing the puckering live and in living color, as these black immigrants show their natural black asses. Aren't we seeing it for what it really is? Huh. Angela, speak to souls that hear. Yes, I do. Y'all are the wind beneath my wings over here. Y'all my regulars, and you guys are the ones to help me make the message go viral. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here. Y'all my co-hosts. I know that's right. South Africa looks amazing. Yes, it does. It's beautiful. Well, Cape Town, yeah, but Johannesburg is lit. I'm going to use some of my reparations to get me a nice condo over there so I can leave this country in the winters. I believe the First Lady is rewriting our history at the Department of Education, changing history of our greatest. Notice she's been AWOL as a school teacher. Go figure. Honey, I wouldn't put it past her, Summer Rain. Yeah, Angela, you see repat scam for what it is. Oh, repatriation. BB, you and your little acronyms. You make me work to get your stuff out. GK, that continent better hand over all rights and natural resources over to Black America first. They owe it to us. Ain't that about a blip, family? It just came to mind that here these folks are lying and changing history to say that we were kidnapped when you got African countries apologizing for having sold us into slavery. Ain't that about a blip? The Jedi mind trick. Yeah, they owe us everything, but most of them don't have any of this kind of stuff you talk about, GK, earmarked for us. They want to use our resources to help build their countries. Angela, I say the same thing. Why go back to the scene of the crime? I hate West Africa and will never go there, but South Africa is the place we need to go. Listen, they have more in common with us and they understand our plight in this country. So if you're going to go anywhere, I would say go there. I'd love to see us at least over there on a part-time basis. Sorry, Angela, potty language piece of ish. Girl, ain't nobody more potty mouth than me. Angela, and I love the Lord, okay? I love my inner Christ. How about that? Angela, I've been to South Africa twice, and they love Black Americans. They say we are their big brothers and sisters, and they look up to us, and we gave them inspiration. They always say, where is the rest? Hey, that's what's up. Yeah, family, if y'all got to visit, go where you're loved. Go where you're celebrated, baby, not tolerated. Freedmen lives matter. You better know it, family. Ivy Dream. Lucky says, Black immigrants are not our people. Why should we look out for them? We not, family. We looking out for us now. We have no friends and no allies. Derek, you better tell that TR Roof. All we got is each other, family. The South Africans always say they love FBA, and we know how to be on code, and we have the same similar history and experiences. They don't like the West Africans. Uh-oh, what happened? It jumped. They don't like West Africa and chasing them out. So I overstand, T-Shields. Thanks for sharing. Investing in our own is called survival. Come through, Summer. Did you see Megan's video of the Nigerians saying they've been in America for 4 centuries? Oh my God. I gotta go check that out. That's Mouthy Megan, y'all. She is hilarious. Okay. I ain't going nowhere without my reparations and guns. You better say that there. What's up, Sandra Delry 360? I see you, fam. BB gave a look. Greetings, Miss Angela and American Freedmen. Woo, I like the way that sounds. I'm going to leave it right there while I pray us out. How y'all always get me over here for 2 hours and some change? Them Nigerians are so delusional. Absolutely. All right, family. We're going to land on Sandra Delry 360. Oh, y'all, this has been such a rich broadcast. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications if you feel so compelled. Bless the broadcast. This takes a lot of work and a lot of my resources to bring it to you. I'm grateful for those of you who have blessed the broadcast. Thank you so much. Know that your presence is a blessing. Your chat as my co-host is a blessing. It's all a blessing, okay? And with that being said, family, now listen, I'm going to have to rearrange some things. I've got to carry these kids on out to Arcadia for a huge weekend of track, okay? It's going to be epic. And so I might not get to you tomorrow. I might try to squeeze one in the morning if I'm feeling like I got some energy to do it, because this takes a lot of energy. But if not, I'll see you on Sunday at 10 a.m. because Saturday is shot. I'm almost sure I won't have no energy after baking in this 100-degree temperatures, watching track all day. So Sunday I'll be here twice is my goal. At 10 a.m. with ETM Media Group, he's going to help me stream it to my audience. If not, I'll restream it at a later time and go live on their platform. And then I'll be back around 7 for this very important broadcast on the necessity to get out the vote midterms and henceforth. We can never, ever again stay home. We must weaponize this vote and socialize this suffering and bring the Democrat Dixiecrats to their knees for several election cycles in order for them to even start talking sensibly about our reparations. So buckle up, buttercups. But Sunday is going to be litty. That's probably going to bring that to you at 7 at night. So I'm going to build that show out right now so you can share the YouTube with your people, okay? With that being said, family, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever Freedmen and its allies are, God truly is, because family, you are the face of God. You are the voice of God. You are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. If no one has told you today, family, know this. That I love you, Black family. I love you, Freedmen family. And I love you so strong. Yes, I do. Until we meet tomorrow, well, Sunday, okay? I want you to make it a beautiful, God-inspired rest of your evening and weekend. Until then, I'm believing for you a ton of peace, love, and reparations. I'm out.